Okay, great. This is Jeanette. I'm hosting this ad hoc meeting and I will call the meeting to order at 12 o'clock. Let's do our roll call. So last time I called everyone's names, but I noticed, Chantel, you just had people call out their names. So let's try it that way. Jeanette Abby Nader.
Ann Smith.
Chantel.
Laura Kepley.
Lynn Delvon-Schill.
Great, welcome. Laura, welcome to the Human Rights Commission. This is your first meeting, I think, right?
I am rejoining. So it is not my first meeting, but it's my first meeting back after a hiatus. So I'm excited to be back to join your work.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Thank you.
And
Hey,
we have
Laura, glad you're back.
Hi, Ann. How are you? We'll chat.
Ernest, we just did roll call. Do you want to add your name?
Ernest Chambers, please add me to the roll. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Okay, so we'll start what we do with our tradition is start by reciting the mission. Does everyone have access to that? Or actually, I can share my screen here. Okay, right here. And the Human Rights Commission mission is to act as a strong advocate for justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership
And
guidance in the area of civil rights. Thank you all. A little harder to do online. We have 4 members from the public here. If you'd like to speak, we have public comment opportunity. Each person would have an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please raise your hand if you'd like to share anything at this time.
And Jeanette, you can see the list of attendees, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anna, Jack, Martha, Allah. Okay. Good to move forward then, you think, Todd? Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment if anyone would like to add anything then. The purpose of today's ad hoc committee meeting is specifically to talk about the opening of the position for the Human Rights Manager, to pull together our suggestions for changes, recommendations to the job description, and then also to prepare for our joint session meeting that was scheduled for July 28th. So I do have an update with that before we get started, but was there any changes or recommendations for changes to the agenda before we jump in? So we got a notice from the mayor's office that the mayor is interested in hosting smaller, rather than having a joint session, in hosting smaller meetings with 2 counselors, 2 human rights commissioners, to talk more personal about this before we go to a joint session. So she has asked for our proposal. And Todd, do you want to add anything to that? I don't really know what else to say.
So I think it's a little bit flexible. I had to ask the question, because they call them 2-1s. And I think the reference is that there are 5 counselors, the one being the mayor, and it would be meeting with 2 counselors at a time. And then I think the piece of that is that for council, they don't have to publicly notice a meeting with just 2 city councilors. Now, if that means that it's 2 counselors with more than 2 human rights commissioners, then we would have to declare public notice, which would be on our end. But I think that's part of the question too, is what would the format be there? Like how many commissioners would be meeting with those 2 counselors at a time? and ultimately with the mayor. So that might be something to consider, and then we should communicate that back to Kina in the clerk's office.
I think we should kind of address that first before we go into updating the agenda, which might not be a relevant, we might not have the opportunity for a joint session. So discussion on how we might want to approach the 221 and if we want to make it a larger meeting with more counselors, or if we want to do it the smaller intimate meetings with two commissioners.
I have a comment and a question, or a question and a comment. I'm wondering what purpose it would serve to meet with individual human rights commissioners in a smaller setting. What's the expectation that, working with two people may change things, or what? I'm just curious because it's been on the calendar for so long to do it with the commission and the city council. So I'm just being inquisitive.
Yeah, I can pull up kind of text.
One of the things that was mentioned is that the mayor council's about to do a retreat at the end of July. And they didn't want to hold the work session before the retreat, but the mayor wanted to make sure that there was a chance for the commission to sort of brief the counselors before the work session. So I don't know that the 221s are in lieu of the work session. I think they are like preceding the work session. That was my understanding, but we can confirm that. And it looks like Jeanette's going to pull up the email.
Yeah, I can read this. It says, I believe the mayor is saying that council would like to be briefed in smaller meetings with two counselors at a time, and then the remaining one counselor, so that they have a chance to process some of the information before going into an open public meeting. She's expressed interest in the city council having its strategic planning meeting before engaging in other work sessions. So I don't imagine the council will be prepared before the end of July for the 221 meetings, as they have indicated while we were trying to schedule other meetings. So I think that's right. It's that the idea is that we can talk more to have prep conversations before we go to open public meeting, and that it happen after their strategic planning meeting towards the end of July.
Jeanette,
Yeah,
did you see my hand up?
no, but thank you for raising it.
I did the proper thing. I raised my hand.
My apologies. Go ahead, Sue.
I've been on too many Zooms. I know the rules. My question is, actually, there can only be two commissioners at the same time also. So
Correct.
when we're saying 2-1, we're also doing 2-2-1. With the one, we could have two people with the single counselor.
Yes.
And I think we need to go along with that. As I read everything, it was clear that they do not want a joint meeting now or at the end of July, and need to wait. Oh, good grief. Sorry. Excuse me.
Sure.
I'm on a Zoom. Talk to you later. Bye. Took care of my daughter very nicely. So I'm in favor of going ahead and planning this 221 with 2 of us, which is going to be an interesting logistic thing that we're going to have to do a doodle pool, I think.
Yeah.
Find out who can do what, when, with whom. I mean, who's available to take the first two counselors, who's available to take the next two counselors, et cetera. Anyway, I have no problem going ahead with that. I think the harder we push for a joint meeting, the more pushback we're going to get until they hear from us individually, because they've asked for this before.
Yeah. Anyone have any concerns? Go ahead, Laura.
I just had a question about what kind of feedback are they hoping to elicit from the commissioners? going into those meetings.
I don't think that's been outlined specifically. Kind of mentioned that the mayor is looking for a proposal from us. And so we can include, I think, what we want in that proposal. I would recommend that we include the updated job position with some of the things that, as well as other, I think we don't have to keep it to this topic. We could also include some of the other items around the police conduct recommendations. Ernest and then Sue.
My question is, is this expected to happen before the July 28th meeting?
Are the 221s expected to happen?
Yes.
No, they want them to happen after,
Okay.
is what I read. Is that what you understood, Todd?
Yeah, what I understood was they're going to put a hold on the July 28th meeting. So that wouldn't be happening on July 28th, the full work session. And then it sounds like they may not even want to hold the 221s before the end of July, though we can ask for some specific dates. Those might happen, say, let's just say early August or something like that. And then with the work session to follow, the 221s at a later date and not to be determined at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry if I missed that before. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, I know. We're still piecing it together.
Chantal?
I think it would be helpful to understand like at least what their strategic planning meeting is. It's really broad and vague. But if they are having a meeting and it is including things that have to do with just the current world that we're living in with COVID and policing, all of that stuff that we've been talking about, it would be, I think it may be a good idea if some of the, at least one of the two ones happened before. And then to Sue's point about, how do we align when different commissioners are meeting with different city councilors? We'll just need to have a really solid plan and understanding, hopefully the same clear understanding of the work that we're trying to do, and talking points and all of that stuff. So I do personally also agree with Sue and some of the other folks that 221s aren't the worst idea ever. We're trying to rebuild our relationship with council. As far as I've been chair, we haven't had any meetings with any city councilors really. I know there've been a couple of times where people have seen councilors in passing and have had some one-off conversations, but to go now in the second year of not having a direct meeting with city council, there's probably a lot of relationship building that we need to do. And I'm sure they're aware of that as well. So I don't think it's the worst idea to have conversations before a broader joint session.
So I also think that it would be really helpful to have the same people. I wonder if it would be helpful to have the same people, the same two people talk with each set. But I think it would just take or if we have different people, we'll want to have meetings in between to update and really be on the same page. And I wonder what you all think about that. Lindell?
Yeah, so I just wanted to go back to what we did have a series of meetings. Trying to remember when they were. I think they were in the fall. Remember when we were first talking about it may even have been about the full-time director of the commission. Now I can't remember, but we did have some talks with one-on-one talks, and they were pretty good, I thought. But they were strategic. I mean, they were just a couple of points that we were doing. So I like the idea. I think it was very helpful to do that. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it was a good idea.
Lindell, can you remind us who you met with?
I met with Sana, and I think that was all that I actually got to meet with, because a couple of people we were scheduled and then canceled on us. But
and then I think Rob met with some too.
And Rob met with a couple of people too.
Okay,
I found it very helpful.
Seems like we're pretty much in agreement that we want to move forward with the meetings, the 221 meetings with the counselors. There was a suggestion by Chantel that at least one of those meetings happen before their strategic session. And then let's discuss who we would like to have represent the commission at these meetings. Todd?
Just kind of thinking about sort of the structure of the Human Rights Commission and maybe the strategy, just putting this out there for you to consider, that I wonder if we can request the one of the 221s first, that being the mayor. And I wonder if Chantel and Sue, as the chair and vice chair of the commission, would that would seem in sort of the kind of the leadership role, kind of having a leadership meeting before the retreat. I wonder if that would be one strategy to consider.
I think that's a good idea, Todd.
I think so too. I could manage that.
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mute, but I agree. I think that is a good plan.
Yep.
And then would you all what do you think about having the two of you continue with the other meetings or with the other two twos? Or would you like to see other commissioners step in?
That's a really good question. I think consistency wise, Sue, I think it would be a great idea for us to do all of them. I also feel as though, you know, if there are folks on the commission that would love to be a part of at least one of those, I am not opposed to sharing that mic and just making sure that we're building more capacity across all of the commissioners. I think is really important. So I'll defer to Sue for what she thinks would probably be.
I don't think it's necessary for you and I to be involved in all of them. I think it's a much better idea what Todd had at the beginning. And as we go past their meeting, other commissioners need to be involved for sure. They need to, council needs to see who these other commissioners are and have an opportunity to talk to them. And I think you can set up some sort of grid that that allows commissioners to say they'd be willing to work to talk to a particular counselor or two, and they're going to have to pick. It's a 2-2, so they're going to have to pick which two go with anybody. I think we just have to. It's frankly a logistic sort of nightmare to get this all set up. But I have no problem with the rest of the commission being. If you and I meet with the mayor, that's cool. She knows where we're coming from, and it's up to the rest of the council to meet with the rest of the commission to find out where everybody is on it.
Mm-hmm. Great idea, Sue.
Do other folks have comments on what we would prefer? I also agree with you, Sue. I don't know if it's me not wanting to be overtapped with meeting a lot, but I would be okay with other commissioners definitely stepping in, and we just have to make sure again that we're passing notes along. And
yeah, and if it shows up that there's only one commissioner that is available or wants to meet with a specific counselor, one or the other of us can join if we can.
Laura?
Yeah, I think as someone who's new and returning back to the commission, maybe Jessica feels the same way. I'd want to clarify if we're to be expressing like our own viewpoint and the council, or we're supposed to be expressing more of a unified viewpoint, and if so, what are those talking points that we're trying to get together, so that I can import that in my meeting.
I agree with Laura. We would have to have, I think it would need to be unified and not individual points that we want to bring up with council. I think that'll be a better thing, especially going in between different counselors.
Todd?
I also wonder if another strategy for the 2-2s, you know, given the timeline here, we could potentially invite groups of 2 counselors to the July and August commission meetings as well, because we'll all be there. The one caveat to that is you know, one of the pieces of Kina's email, it sounded like the mayor was maybe keen on not having a public meeting at this point. So our meetings would be open to the public. And so maybe the counselors may be avoiding that at this point to have a more intimate discussion. So that might be off the table, but just another way to like maybe create a space for that conversation for the other counselors.
So we have the option of, definitely, it sounds like we want to reach out to respond to the request to say, yes, we'd like to do the 2-2-1s. We would like our first meeting to be with the mayor and the chair and vice chair of the commission prior to their strategic planning retreat, if possible. And then for the other, which will be after our July meeting, Todd. So I think, and then the other option, I would encourage us to try to have the 2 and 2s in those first weeks of August, like as soon as possible, and not wait until our August meeting. And I would be willing to go to these meetings. And Ernest and Laura, you had mentioned, were you volunteering? Were your comments also of volunteering to be part of that 2-2 team?
I'm happy to lend my voice. Again, this is my first meeting.
Yeah.
And so I'd want to know what the view of the council, view of the commission should be going into that.
Yes, yes, I will.
Okay. Anyone else want to be part of that? Okay, so the 3 of us, and we could put that out.
I think I would like to be part of it too. I had trouble getting unmuted.
Sorry.
Would it be helpful to share the talking points that we had developed? Because they were still, do you want me to bring them up or share them around now?
Yeah, let's, let me just finish this summary of like who would volunteer. So right now it's Jeanette, Ernest, Laura, and Anne.
And me.
Oh, and Lindell, okay.
And will you poll the rest of the commission on who is willing to participate?
Sure. And then how do you, we'll need to decide then, because we really only need 4 people at the most, and less if we want to have a similar person, you know, one person go to the last 2 meetings. Laura?
I can back out then.
Okay.
Somebody who has more recent knowledge should absolutely be on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also eat carrots.
I mean, I can be an alternate, and Ann and Lindell, you're the 2 veterans in this, but I can definitely sit in if neither one of them can go. But either way you want to do it, I'm fine.
Stay with me.
I mean, Lindell has already spoken to a counselor. Rob has already spoken to a counselor. I think it would be really good to have them hear from a couple of other people in this particular 2-2 thingy that we're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry.
Chantal,
I forgot to raise my hand. I'm sorry.
I didn't raise my hand either.
Chantal and then Anne.
So could we, I do think other commissioners should be notified of it. I don't know if this plan, I feel like it has been said across, but I just want to make sure that all the commissioners know that we're doing this 2-2-1 thing. And here are the people who are going to be up to speak. And we should also probably open it up to the folks who weren't able to make this meeting. So I'm okay with holding off a little bit until we can hear from the rest of the 7 commissioners.
Okay. Anne, were you?
Yes, but I'll have to come back to it. I lost my train of thought that quickly.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like there's interest in opening it up, letting other folks know, and then once we get that pool of names, somehow deciding who would talk to them. I think that's kind of vague. I feel like from my perspective, the point of having an ad hoc committee is that you have fewer people who are focusing on a particular issue. And so I think when the folks who were working on the police guidelines came up with, they didn't open it up to the whole commission to see who would then follow up and talk with the mayor, or sorry, talk with the police commissioner. It came from that ad hoc committee. So I would recommend doing that, just from, picking from folks that are here and interested. And if we didn't have enough people, I wouldn't mind opening it up, but it just seems like a hard decision to make. Anne?
I would agree with you on that, because we're the ones that are having the most conversation. We're hearing what others are saying right now, and but whatever way. I know we're missing some today because of the time of day, but they have been involved in other things, so other conferences. So I'm okay, whatever the final decision is.
Okay, thanks. Todd?
Just kind of thinking about next steps, perhaps. We could, and if I can be helpful in this regard, I can reach out to Kina or Jeanette as the chair of this ad hoc. You could do that, or Chantel as the chair of the commission. You could do that. I wonder if we would like to, and I know there's an agenda, a draft agenda already prepared, or maybe it's still in the works for the work session. I wonder if that agenda is pretty much the same thing you would want to talk about in the 221s. If we could send that along with a request for dates from council, and then armed with that, we can then go back and sort of make the decisions about who will meet with whom based on what the dates are and which counselors would like to be present on which dates.
Okay. Anyone else? That sounds like a good suggestion. And embedded in that suggestion, is it to open it up to the whole council, to the whole commission, sorry?
I've changed my mind. I listened to what Jeanette said about the people that consider themselves part of the ad hoc committee. People who have, in fact, responded to questions, etc. And it strikes me that we've got 4 people here that haven't talked to a counselor yet: Jeanette, Anne, Ernest, and Laura. And having Laura talk to a counselor is, even though she's new, she's been on the commission before. So there's some insight that she could give to a specific counselor. It strikes me that we've got enough people on this call that we can field the 2-2-1 process. Because Jeanette, you haven't talked to a specific counselor.
Not in this.
Right. And Lindell's the only one who's already talked to somebody. So it strikes me that we've got 4 people here that could be participating in the 2-2-1, because we've got 1 taken care of. That's where I am. I'm taking back my suggestion that we open it up to volunteering from other commissioners, because somebody's then going to have to make the decision.
Okay.
So I also,
Anne, and then Chantel, and then Laura. Yeah.
I think that by different individuals meeting with them, that they could now put a name, a face with a name, because all I've seen is like names of people, and then they can, you know, pretty much figure out who's who.
I just wanted to share that I also haven't met with any counselors in my capacity as a commissioner of the Human Rights Commission. All of that stuff was left open, and we were really sharing leadership about that to the whole commission when we did it the first time around. And so I do want to honor that. Like, even when we were scheduling the one-on-ones, everyone had an opportunity to potentially be a part of that process. And because of scheduling, I wasn't even, I mean, I'm the chair of the commission. I still haven't met and talked with any counselor about the Human Rights Commission at all. And so I mean, this is an ad hoc committee. I can be really collaborative. I'm really collaborative about this. I do think that we should come up with a decision, but we should also be mindful that we are speaking on behalf of the entire Human Rights Commission in these meetings, and everyone should know about it. And potentially everyone should have a say in, besides Sue and I meeting with the mayor, which sound, you know, following Todd's, you know, rationale in the hierarchy, that makes sense, but everyone should be aware of us meeting with city councilors and at least being able to have a little bit of a say, or at least knowing. I don't feel comfortable with just selecting people out of this small group without even letting the rest of the group know.
Laura?
Just to ask you then, Chantal, do you think that that we should go ahead with a public meeting instead of the sort of private ones? Like, also the question, and then also my bit was just to say, since time with council seems like a valuable and often precious resource, that we should put the people forward who have the most articulated ask. And so while I appreciate you trying to offer up your time to me, Sue, I also recognize that your time on the council has been like, might be a little bit more valuable in terms of strategy and making the best opportunity to advocate for what the commission needs going forward. If that's in fact what this 2-on-1 is supposed to be, 2-on-2-on-1. I'll back away.
Chantal, did you want to answer her question about the public meeting?
Oh, Sue had her hand raised. I didn't know.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
Let me take my hand down.
That was from before.
Oh, okay. I don't, so to the public meeting comment, we have tried to invite counselors, city managers and things to public meetings. That has not worked. I really do feel like they need a reintroduction. And sometimes that's easier when you're meeting one-on-one in intimate spaces to just like, what's going on? And to Lindell, she did bring it up, like we did have talking points, so still pretty much the same since we developed them around the time where we knew that Charlene was leaving. And so there is like an agenda and a whole framework for doing this. So I feel confident that we can like have different commissioners meet and speak with the same voice. That's not my biggest worry. I just want everyone to know that we're doing this and just have the same, kind of method that we did last time with opening it up.
Chantal, when you say when we did last time, do you mean, what do you mean in regards to the police commission group or?
No, so when Lindell was, well, maybe Lindell has her hand up. So no, she doesn't. Okay.
No, okay, but go ahead and answer. But
so I'm just like remembering the church when we had met. But it was a really similar conversation that we're having now. It wasn't about policing. It was about Charlene leaving and her position and like, what is our strategy with the commission and what is that stuff going to look like? And we had set up for commissioners to individually go and reach out. I do remember Ernest was on the docket and Andy was also on the docket, but those meetings got canceled. with whoever they were supposed to meet with. And then I think Lindell and Rob were the only two that were actually able to connect with a city councilor. And those talking points are, like I said, really, they could have shifted, they may shift a little bit, but they're really still the same. It's still the same conversation because we never were able to meet with every single councilor, and then it never accumulated into that larger meeting afterwards. So.
Okay, thanks. Lindell?
So I hear what Chantel's saying, and I actually agree. I think that the other members of the commission need to know that we're going ahead with this. And maybe the way to do this is to say, okay, we have these 4 people signed up. They're going to do this, but we want you all to know about it. Here are the talking points. If you really want to meet with the counselors, then let us know. And then we just have a date in which that happens. Because I don't think it needs to be a huge meeting to let everybody know. I think it can just be, here's what we've decided, but we want to make sure you know about it and have your input.
Yeah. Todd?
I don't know if Sue's hand is up first, so I'll defer if she is. Okay.
No, she's just waving.
So what I'm hearing in terms of there's some thought of how can we share this with the larger group to give people the option to participate if they want to. However, we could sort of decide sort of preliminarily on folks who are genuinely interested in doing 2-on-2s within this group. Just timing wise, our next regular meeting is on the 16th, and I'm wondering, I don't think these, I mean, I guess the Chantel and Sue and Nikaya meeting could happen before the 16th. I don't know that it would, but the other meetings would happen after the regular meeting. So we could at the regular meeting sort of make this proposal like, here's our general plan. Does anyone have strong feelings about being one of the commissioners on the 2-on-2 teams, and then go from there. And then maybe leading up to the 16th, I can also ask Hina for dates and which counselors would be present together and on which dates, so that we would have that to present on the 16th for people to consider as well. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Sue?
Yeah, hearing that, I'm also thinking in the back of my head, is there any reason why a 2-2 can't happen more than once? In other words, a specific counselor can meet with 2, or 2 counselors can meet with 2 commissioners at one time. 2 counselors, different ones maybe, can meet with 2 different commissioners at another time. There's nothing that I see in their 2-2-1 structure eliminates it happening more than once. That's just my brain moving.
I just want to add myself in the queue and then try and summarize some thoughts. So I think a few things I heard was the combined interest in having updating the full council on what we're doing, and Chantel, that would always, I think there's no question. My suggestion that we focus on the folks in this ad hoc committee was not that we wouldn't tell the larger commission and update them and get their feedback, but that we would focus in. I feel like the fewer people we have with the more targeted message approaching the council about this particular issue, we could be more effective. But overall, it seems like there's general buy-in that we update everyone at the meeting on the 16th, as well as with notes beforehand, that we're going to change it to the 2-2-1 schedule, that Sue and Chantel work to meet with the mayor for the 1 prior to their strategic planning meeting. And then we get dates from council on when they can meet with their partners, if they would be open to more than 1 meeting. And then based on those dates and the people who have volunteered, we match them up after that. Does that sound like a good summary? And I was not at that meeting at the church, so I think Lindell, do you want to share those talking points now? If we feel like this is good, we could maybe move into looking at some of those talking points. So I would even like take my name off the list so that people who have already talked to them or who were at that original meeting if they wanted to follow up. Lindell, do you mind introducing this?
Get off mute here. Okay, so these are the talking points that were developed, and I don't even remember when we developed them now, but that was at that meeting in the church. We came up with these talking points, and the first one is to talk about the ordinance and the full-time director. And so these are the talking points that we were going to go over. At that time, we were also really concerned with not having received response from the city manager's office. So we were specifically talking about the importance of getting that response when we asked for it. And then this was, the final notes were for the city council meeting that we were proposing to get on the schedule to talk about these issues. I think I can get them all in the screen at once here. Can everybody see them okay?
Mhm. They're a little small. Can you
Yep. Is
make your screen a little smaller?
that better?
Thanks.
Can you tell me exactly where to find these? Because I'm not going to sure I want to print them from your screen.
So what I can do is give you the link. I
Yeah.
can put it in the chat right now,
Got it.
and then we can send it out to everyone at any point, whenever you want to.
Great. I can add it to the other documents that we're receiving feedback on.
Okay. Right.
Looking at it now, are there any additional talking points that folks want to add?
Maybe what we want to do is we want to specifically say here that we do have a list of, or we will have a list of, do we want to mention the job description?
Oh, that's the other thing.
So I was thinking that before the meetings happened, we submit the proposal that
Okay.
council has asked for, that the mayor has asked for, which would include the agenda, this recommended agenda for the joint session, as well as the updated job position description with our recommendations.
Okay, so they will have seen that.
Sorry.
So they will have seen that then before these talking points.
Yeah, if you all agree that that would be part of the packet.
Mhm. Yeah. That's fine. Ah,
I wonder if we might want to,
mention-
sorry, I didn't see it. Someone raising their hand. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jeanette, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please go ahead.
I'm having trouble reading it, but is it mentioned in there the commission's interest in discussing the status of the Office of Equity and Inclusion, as well as the status of the relationship between the community, a civilian review board, and the Human Rights Commission? I don't see it in there, but it could be.
It's not. So those would be good things to add, I think.
I think there's also, I'm looking at our agenda for the work session, there was also the review of the police use of force recommendations. Maybe one of the talking points wouldn't be getting into the weeds about what those recommendations are, but trying to schedule a a next step action for that activity.
Is somebody, you want me to type these in?
We can add them. I can add them later too, but yeah, if you're
Okay.
able to.
Okay, well,
I'm just pulling directly from the proposed agenda that we've been
why don't I
working.
just start typing it in? If you wouldn't mind just reading it to me again, or some version of that to put in here.
review the police use of force policy recommendations was what was on our agenda item. So perhaps we could say schedule next steps for review of the police use of force policy recommendations. And the way the other one is worded is discuss relationship between Office of Human Rights, new Office of Equity and Inclusion, and the Civilian Review Board.
And that would fall under the second one, all city departments, boards, and commissions.
Yeah, I'm just typing it right there. Thank you. Yes, discuss relationship with, I'm sorry, the CP.
I mean, those two bullets don't really apply to director of the commission. They apply to
Yeah.
city departments. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to move it. I'm just typing it really quick right now. I'm sorry, what was the Office of Equity and Inclusion and the Civilian Police
Review Board. Civilian Review Board.
Mhm.
Right, this may be a third section.
Okay.
How about,
I'm noticing the time. We have about 13 minutes left. I'd like to propose that we add this document to the other two, the draft agenda and the position description. And I can clean them up with everybody's comments, and then we come to the meeting on the 16th to finalize them. Or do y'all think we need to finalize them before the 16th to send to the council?
Todd's got his hand up.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know how to do the virtual hand. I apologize. I was going to suggest we might want to have them ready to include in the agenda packet if it's going to be part of what's on the meeting at the meeting on July 16th. So perhaps could we say a week before, which is when I usually try to do the public posting, that we have kind of as done as they are, and then I will include them in the agenda packet and post them.
Okay, so if everyone could make their final comments by July 8th, I can pull them by noon on July 8th. I can pull them together to have for you for the 9th, which is a week before the 16th. Okay, how does that sound to everybody?
Mhm.
I can't see everyone because I'm looking at the screen. Can folks just audibly?
Oh, I'm fine.
Sounds good.
I'm
Yes.
fine with it.
Okay, Tim,
I'm good.
great. Chantel, any thoughts?
I'm good.
Thanks,
But I'm
Erin.
not Chantel.
No, it sounds good.
There we go. Thank you. That's better. All right. So next on our agenda, we had to look at the director position recommendations, and we just have a few minutes. Did anyone have, I can share that screen here, comments on the online documents?
I had one quick question. So when we were looking at the, you're talking about the job description, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the comments that I had made was about the statement about gender identity. So I have a process question just to throw in here. How do we go about getting gender identity added to the ordinance or to request that? Maybe we do this later, but I just wanted to point out that I think it should have that in the ordinance. And if it doesn't, we should ask that it be updated.
So
Great.
just from a procedural standpoint, sorry, Jeanette, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You know, I think what we've done in the past is the commission has drafted language and then we've shared that with the city attorney's office. I believe think it's a good thing to bring up because we have several recommendations that are sort of waiting in the wings, including the city versus county resident requirement for participation on the commission. So perhaps the commission could draft some language that we could then share with Allison Davies and the city attorney's office for consideration.
Would you like me to add that to the joint session agenda to discuss ordinance changes?
In the meantime, I'm happy to just draft up a simple statement to send around to the commission for agreement, maybe at our next meeting. All I'm really going to propose is that the ordinance be amended to include gender identity. So it's a pretty simple statement.
This is Chantel. I agree with that. So I know that officially in July 1st, it's included. And I know the Supreme Court had recently ruled that Title IX and all of that stuff relating to sex, like gender, is a part of that.
Right.
So, I mean, technically it's included in sex. I would love to see like concrete language that calls it out.
Absolutely.
Just to note, if look at the ordinance, because we do have a subset that does specify that gender identity and I believe transgender status are currently included in our ordinance, even though they weren't protected by state law at the time. So we had an unenforceable clause in the ordinance, but I do believe the language might already be there, but it may need some additional language. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that there is, it's more expansive than the previous state law was.
That's the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like the suggestion is that we take some action at the next Human Rights Commission meeting on that, based on whatever, Lindell will make a recommendation based on the language that's in there and moving it up from a special status to part of the ordinance.
I'm actually looking right now, sorry. I'm trying to find the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now it doesn't, I don't see where it says gender identity.
I thought it did.
Do you mind, I know we just have a few minutes left.
Or just the chat, because I'll show you where I'm finding it.
Okay, so if we switch our focus and talk about that, we probably won't get to finish talking
Okay,
about
sorry.
the
No,
position. It's okay. I'm just wondering if we can address that at the meeting on the 16th
yes,
with the whole team and then use this ad hoc time to focus on.
yes, sorry.
Thanks. No, that's okay. So this was the working document, and I'm wondering if everyone had a chance to add their comments where they feel like we would be ready to move to bring this to the broader commission on the 16th. Go ahead, Ann.
Yes, I think it's after reading it over, I think it's a very good document, and that's something that is spelled out pretty clear. We know the areas to look for as we continue our discussion. So I think it's good as it is. I don't see any need to change it as typed right now for our commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I agree.
Jeanette, if you like, I can reshare the Google link to this along with the link to the talking points in an email to the rest of the commission, and note that we're requesting any comments before July 8th, if you'd like.
And if you could specify at noon on July 8th so that I can get them to you first thing the next morning.
Will do. Okay.
And also, could you share the agenda too for the joint session?
Yes.
Those three links.
And I just want to make sure I have all the links. I think I do, because you sent them in a previous email, correct?
Yeah, I'll send them again to you if needed.
That'd be kind. I would find them, but if you don't mind, that would be great.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that we have some time for public comment if there is any. Any other comments on this before we move to open public comment? Okay. Any of the attendees want to make a public comment? Okay, so let's try and I'll try and summarize next steps. So we will add to the agenda for the Human Rights Commission's meeting on the 17th to propose changes to the Human Rights Ordinance to include gender identity, transgender status. And Lindell will draft a statement for that. I will make sure that Todd has the links to share with everyone again around the updates for the Human Rights Manager position, the talking points for the 221s, and the agenda for the joint council session. And maybe within that email that you send, Todd, I can also write like a little summary of the point that we're changing to the 221 meeting and invite commissioners who are interested in participating in that process. And then we'll add that whole discussion as well to the meeting on the 16th. Anne?
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. You're saying 221, meaning it would be 2 people with 1 counselor. Now, is that how the whole thing is going to go? Or is it going to be 2-2?
I think the 221 is for the counselors. So 2 counselors with 2 commissioners, 2 counselors with 2 commissioners, and then 1 counselor with 2 commissioners.
Okay, because we keep on saying 221, and I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be that way the entire time.
Yeah,
so now
that's the language the council uses to talk about when they break up the council and meet individually with people.
Okay, got you. All right, thank you.
Now, Todd and I both had to look it up too. Any other next steps? All right, thank you all so much for investing your time in the middle of the week for this. And our meeting is adjourned at 12:58.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Nice to see everyone.
Nice job.
Bye.
Nice job, Jeanette.
Thank you.
All right, great job, Jeanette.